So she pulled the shades down, she lit a candle, she took away all of the medical hospice equipment, and she started humming, and she got a little bowl of soapy water, and she said, "Hold your mother in your arms, dear, just like she held you when you were born."
Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I interview thoughtful, inspiring, and influential guests who are making their mark on the world and contributing to the common good. Making your mark, big or small, is creating a legacy, and it's one of the proven ways we can age with vibrance and deep contentment. Zestful Aging podcast is my legacy. Our music is courtesy of Judy Banker, who is a previous guest on Zestful Aging. Find out more about her and her music on judybanker.com. And to find out more about Zestful Aging podcast, my web courses, and other offerings, hop on over to zestfulaging.com. Well, as usual, you know I've got my little loyal Jack Russell Sparky right by my side. He had a very long hike yesterday, so he is curled up. Let's begin. We have a really important interview for you today. I'm so looking forward to it. You may know the funeral industry in the U.S. has come under scrutiny for its unethical practices for many years, and books like The American Way of Death have exposed widespread problems related to the profession's lobbying activity in Washington, inflated cremation costs, the telemarketing of pay-in-advanced graves, and the effects of monopolies in the death care industry, now dominated by multinational corporations, to say nothing of the environmental impact of the traditional burial. Today, we're going to talk about the alternatives to traditional funerals and burials, a very relevant subject. We're going to be speaking with Olivia Bareham, and she's the founder of Sacred Crossings, a Los Angeles-based funeral home that specializes in green, environmentally sensitive products and after-death care practices. They specialize in home funerals, green burial, full-body sea burial, direct cremation, witness cremation, and celebrant services. Very different experience than the traditional funeral. And they specialize in the home funeral that allows family and friends care for the body of their loved one at home in their own time, honoring cultural and religious traditions. And I am so excited to welcome Olivia Bareham. Welcome to the show, Olivia.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, really.
I'm so fascinated in this subject for many reasons, but I'd like to start with asking you, how did you become a death midwife? And if you could, for our audience, if you could define what a death midwife is.
Of course, I would love to. It all began 15 years ago when my mother was dying of ovarian cancer. So I went back home to England to take care of her. And her dying was profound, had made a profound impact on me, primarily because of how conscious and aware and calm she was about this event that was happening in her life. She said she was good to go. On the morning she died, she said, "Please don't brush my hair today. I'm going home." And when Mother said something, she meant it. So my sister and I knew that we were on the last leg, and sure enough, 18 hours later, she took her last breath. And the whole evening, the night before, the days preceding to it were filled with this anticipatory grace. It wasn't anticipatory grief. It was more of a sense of awe, and I was inspired by the way she was leading the way. She was my first teacher. She was teaching me how to do it, but not saying that. But I see now that was her gift to me, and so in the bigger picture, and I'll go into that a little bit. I feel as though my mother actually ended up birthing me twice. Once in my life, and then again when she died, she birthed my own legacy, like yours is the podcast, and what mine has become is Sacred Crossings, because of this incredible gift she gave me on her deathbed. So I'm just bringing Mother into this conversation too, in a deep, loving way. So that wasn't the main piece for me. It was after she died, the hospice nurse invited me to help prepare her body. And although I'd been a hands-on healer for many years and had been often with people who were sick and dying, when it came to the last breath, we did always what everybody does. They call the funeral home and take a step back and let the professionals come in and take over. So I was shocked and surprised and very grateful to participate in this very sacred act that was now laid out before me. And so she pulled the shades down, she lit a candle, she took away all of the medical hospice equipment, and she started humming, and she got a little bowl of soapy water, and she said, "Hold your mother in your arms, dear, just like she held you when you were born." And I had this visceral experience when I was cradling her body in my arms, of this circle of life and the enormity of the profundity, really, of, wow, this is how it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. It's the most natural, organic, blissful thing, really, to be able to hold her in the same way she held me and to say thank you while we were bathing and anointing and dressing her body. From that moment forth, I knew I was a different person. Everything that had gone before was suddenly just washed away in this ritual. The healing was so profound of everything that we had gone through as mother and daughter, and it certainly wasn't the loving, beautiful one that most people had.
I see.
And I got, oh my gosh, this is how it's supposed to be. So we have this opportunity to heal, to say thank you, to say goodbye. And it was so moving for me anyway. So we dressed her and we laid her on the hospice bed in this beautiful white burial trousseau gown that she had kept in her bottom drawer for years and years for this very purpose. And there she lay. She looked stunning. She looked absolutely stunning. There was nothing. It was like death came to life, really. Her face so peaceful, and the rose on her chest, and it was the quintessential opposite of everything that we see on the media about death, in its agony and its gore and its all of that was just not fear. What was happening. Yes, yes. So there she lay, and then neighbours stopped by and the relatives came over, and I got to sit between Mum laying very still on the hospice bed in the living room and all of these people coming in to say goodbye, and it was just fabulous. And that's when I knew that we have thrown something away in giving death to the funeral industry. And this is our innate right and our responsibility to do this final sacred act. And then I wanted to keep her at home. I said to my sister, let's keep her. Why are we going to give her to the funeral? Why does she have to be in a refrigerator somewhere? Let's keep her here at home. But my sister said it was the middle of winter and the heat was on, the central heating, and we didn't really know, kind of a little nervous because most people know nothing about death. They don't know about a dead body. That it's been so far removed from our...
And so sterilized.
Yes, we don't know how to do that. So I called the funeral home, and of course when they came in, they brought their rattly gurney and they squeezed her into a black plastic bag and zipped her up and wheeled her out into the snow. And it was from that moment that I knew I had a job to do, and it was to deeply investigate and find a way to keep this liminal space open for other people to have that experience that I had with Mom, and then maybe keep it open for a little while longer.
What a contrast you're describing, her in this sort of, laying down in her white gown, peaceful with a rose, sort of this ethereal kind of experience, and then comes the gurney with the rattly sounds and zipping her up in this black vinyl bag. It just could not be more different.
Yeah. So it's true. It took the beauty and the holiness out of this sacred, tender, incredibly intimate space and made it sterile and offensive almost, and very nice and scary. And then suddenly it was a little bit scary, and it hadn't been up until then. It had been the opposite.
It's like she's being processed. It's
yes.
in some way.
Yes, and I think this is what has contributed to our death-phobic culture. It's because the knowingness about what death really is, the still, the beauty, the continuation of life, because even though her body was completely still, it was very clear the mother, the living, breathing mother that I knew, was profoundly present. There she was now. She filled the entire room. And most people miss having this visceral experience of that. We have to come up with conceptual ideas of what happens next, because being present to that quiet, still space is no longer ours. It belongs to the funeral.
And what do we miss, Olivia? What do we miss when we give our loved ones over to the traditional funeral industry? What do we miss out on?
Well, the word that comes up most of all is we are instantly disempowered. What we know innately in our bones how to do, what we crave to do, is to take care of in a final act of love, is taken away. And we know that, but we don't know how to fix it because it's become the norm. And that's what I'm endeavoring to change, but it's really difficult because the collective consciousness has silently agreed that, nobody wants to really handle death. That's icky. Let them do it. Those guys in the black suits over there somewhere. Good. Wash my hands of that and get on with life. We've bought into that as the best way to do it. And it's only the very few who have this experience of the tender, intimate space of preparing the dead that understand what we've given away. So I forgot what your question was now, but
yeah, just what we're missing, what we lose. And you talked about the disempowerment, and now we are at the very height. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? But as we speak, LA is in. It's an absolute calamity. I heard something on the news that 1 out of 5 people in LA are COVID positive, and you have a real disaster on your hands. Are you finding that people are opting for home funerals now? Where are you seeing yourself in terms of the current situation?
Well, I will get to that. Perhaps I should also just very briefly explain what a home funeral is, so for those viewers who don't know.
Please do.
And then we can see why this is so important now. So after that experience, I trained in everything there was to know about how to prepare a dead body. So a home funeral is one where most people, they die at home anyway on hospice. And instead of calling the funeral home, I go into the home and I guide and support the family in this bathing the body, preparing it, shrouding it, anointing it, doing sacred rituals. We find a place in the home to lay the body in honor, as we call it, pull a chair up close so that anyone who comes to visit can be present with the body, which looks beautiful, by the way. It doesn't decompose or deteriorate in any way. And then we take dry ice, place the dry ice, and which we change every day. So we keep the body at a very low temperature, but at the same time, it enables the family to be present to it. So this is normally happening in a spare bedroom, or sometimes it is happening in the living room. It depends on the family, of course. And what I take a cremation box, because most people are cremated right now. Not always, but if they are, I take the empty cremation box to the home with art supplies. So while the body is laying in honor somewhere, for usually between 1 and 3 days, the family are decorating the cremation box. And there's beautiful illustrations on my website that people can go to and see how these boxes are decorated. And then on the 3rd day, we'll place the body from the massage. And usually I place it on a massage table, which is draped with lovely fabrics. We'll take the body from that table and place it in the box, and then have a funeral service right there in the home for whoever's present. And then we take the body to the crematory for cremation or the cemetery for burial. So the family are the only people who touch, prepare the body. No stranger is present to it. It's not never laid on a steel table and scrubbed with disinfectant and sprayed down and, God forbid, embalmed. We don't do anything toxic or invasive. It's all 100% natural with just washcloths and soapy water with essential oils. And so on the 3rd day, the body is taken away. That is the whole home funeral piece. And most of our clients die at home on hospice. However, if someone does die in the hospital, as long as the doctor is willing in the hospital to put causes on the death certificate and it's not a coroner case, then we can get the body from the hospital, bring it home, and have this beautiful bathing ritual take place in the home, the same as it would be if the body had died at home. And in cases of sudden heart attacks and things where maybe children haven't seen Grandpa because he was rushed to the hospital, this way they get to be present to him at home in a very private, intimate way. And for children, it's just amazing. They need this. They need to have their mind quieted. Like, what happened to Grandpa? Look, there he is. He looked just the same as he did yesterday.
It sounds serene.
It is always stunningly beautiful. People just think I'm weird, but I said, you haven't seen it yet. Your idea of death is some creepy notion that you've got, or you've seen an embalmed body in a funeral home that looks like waxwork, and he didn't even look like your mom, or dad. So they have a very I won't say the word warped, but it is a warped view of what a dead body really does look like. So that's how a home funeral generally looks. And now in these times of COVID, I'm a fully licensed funeral home now, so we do everything. And we were told by the LA County that we could not take more cases because every refrigerated facility is now at capacity. So the crematory that usually stores our bodies when they're waiting for cremation is now filled. And so are any other funeral homes that have storage, they're filled. So now bodies have to go to the coroner, and the coroner is, they have special storage units, where the bodies are placed on those trays in bags, tagged, and you don't know where they are. And so now I'm trying to do a campaign to tell families, if your loved one dies at home, please call us and we'll help you prepare and preserve them at home for as long as you need, because there's no limit in Los Angeles for how long you can keep the body at home. we can help the family maintain that liminal sacred space. We can deliver the box to the house. So instead of the loved one being bagged in a shipping container in a parking lot somewhere downtown, they can stay at home. And meanwhile, we can get the paperwork filed, the death certificate and the permit, and put them on the schedule at the crematory. So when the time comes, we can take them directly to the crematory.
Olivia, is that true even if the patient died of COVID? Can they die at home? Okay.
Well, they do, but if it's a COVID case, we wouldn't go in to help the family, of course. We're not going to risk ourselves.
I see.
But and also, in a COVID case has to go to the coroner because they have to be, causes have to be declared, and a doctor. So anyone who dies suddenly at home is a coroner case automatically. So we can only offer this to people who know they're dying of natural causes anyway. They're under a doctor's care, but there's hundreds of those, and those are the sad cases that those people who would normally have just a direct cremation are now stored and stacked along with all the COVID bodies.
I see. It's just so much. It's overwhelming the system, and they're getting. They're part of the system now. It's so backed up. I see. So if they die of natural causes and they're under a doctor's care, and as far as anyone knows, they're not a COVID patient, you can do your kind of home funeral.
Yes, exactly. I know.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to announce that my book is finally available for purchase on Amazon and my website, zestfulaging.com. It's called Not Just Chatting, How to Become a Master Podcast Interviewer, and it's written for people interested in starting a podcast or for those already podcasting who want to stand out from the 2 million podcasts that are already out there. So please pass this along to anyone you know who could benefit from my 30 years experience as a psychotherapist and over 250 podcast interviews. Thanks so much. Do you feel as though this might be an opportunity for you to educate people on what the alternatives are to the typical funeral?
I hope so. I would love that to happen. I'm not sure where to go. I'm not a marketer. I've done everything word of mouth for the last 15 years. So it would be a wonderful, because people just do not know this is possible and available. Every time I talk about it, they go, really? That's legal? I can keep a dead body at home? And I'm like, yes. And it's beautiful. And let us support and help you do this. It's amazing. People do not know their rights because we've turned away from death for so long and given it to the funeral industry to manage.
And it behooves them to keep that power because it's profit generating.
It's very big business. And when somebody doesn't know what their rights are or what their choices are, they're much more liable to say yes. Oh, yes, okay, I'll do that. Oh yes, okay. They say yes and they're upset. They're distraught.
That's right. What a vulnerable time.
Yes.
For people to be making decisions.
Especially now, the loved one is dying and we want to be able to tell them, don't just call a regular funeral home because even the funeral home will have to say, call the coroner, and then they'll believe that's what they have to do. So I should.
And I know you come from England. How different is the philosophy abroad, outside of the U.S.? Is it different in terms of how families think about death?
I thought so when I was in England. I think they're much more open and at ease with it. Other words I'd probably use. They're much more willing to say, "Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that." Whereas there's a film of sort of vague fear here of like, "Oh, I don't think that's legal. I'm going to get sued," or that's where it's coming from here. The liability issue is pervasive in America. Everybody thinks of that first before they follow their heart or their intuition. They cover their bases and make sure that they're not doing anything wrong. And of course, there are multitudes of laws and regulations put in place so that we're trapped in a way in this. In America, I've noticed much more so than Europe. The rules and regulations they're there in place, but they're built on common sense rather than fear of liability. Does that make sense?
I see. Yes. That's been said many times about the U.S. culture. Do you want to tell our listeners about any particular home funeral that was memorable for you? Especially memorable. It sounds like they're all very moving and touching, but is there any of them that stand out for you?
Well, I think perhaps the most memorable was a dear couple of friends of mine who had done my training, the Art of Death Midwifery training, and they were creating a hospice. One of the first hospice really in Los Angeles, because we don't have brick and mortar places. And I was on the board, and a wonderful gay couple, and I married them, and then on the property, and then 6 weeks later, Gabe, one of them had a massive heart attack and died. He was like 52, and it was so shocking and so sudden and such a disruption to this huge community that had built around creating this wonderful service for LA and the hospice, and like, why him? And so you're dealing with the tsunami of the shock of a massive heart attack, a huge community of people, 200 at least, who were part of all of this. The fact that they were just married, so there was all of this love and joy all mixed and entangled up in there. And now, of course, we had to do a home funeral because that's what this hospice was all about. People were going to die in the hospice and they were going to stay there after death for 3 days so that people could experience this 3-day wake and vigil. So it was just astoundingly, and it was big for me because he was very dear to me. I went over there every day. We were having dinner every day to create this place. So,
oh my goodness!
I think it affected me profoundly, and it was an autopsy case. So, because they wanted to figure out why he died so suddenly. So, it was the autopsy repair. It was getting him home, doing the beautiful bathing ritual with his husband Mitch, laying him in the room that was going to be a hospice room in this place, and then inviting all the people who had 6 weeks earlier come to their wedding.
Oh my goodness.
But it was so deep, so rich, so complicated, but then so necessary. The whole community needed to exhale from all of their feelings individually, and the shock that was going on for every one of them, the disappointment, the loss of dreams and tomorrows and love that this couple had shared. So as everybody filed in to be with Gabe and to say what they needed to say, they all said how they couldn't have imagined moving forward in any way without this, having touched him. It's like, okay, he was alive 6 weeks ago, we had such a good time, and now he's laying here dead. I can see that. My brain is managing to absorb and assimilate what just happened.
Metabolize.
Yes. And now we're going to go outside and we're going to have this fabulous celebration. So we carried his body out to the exact spot that they were married, outside on the property, and had this incredible ceremony. And I do have the little video of that on my website.
I did take a look at that.
It shows the different elements, decorating the cremation box and going to visit the deceased when they're laying on their honor bed, as I call it. So,
and part of your work is helping others learn about how to do this. Can you tell me a little bit about, you have some classes, you have some training in death midwifery. Can you talk a little bit about what you offer in addition to doing the death care practices?
Yes. So about 10 years ago, I started to get quite busy I called myself in the beginning a home funeral guide, because I was just helping people after the last breath to prepare their loved one's body and keep it at home for 3 days. So I was a home funeral guide. But then that developed, I had to start teaching people how to make a plan for this. And that led to teaching people about conscious dying. You need to get prepared. You're dying now. What you have to put in place so that your wishes can be honored. And if you would like to lay in rest for 3 days at home and have a wake and a funeral, we got to write that down. So that's when I started teaching conscious dying. And that has actually become, interestingly, the death doula movement, which is about helping somebody who's helping the death journeyer become prepared and relaxed and move into their dying process. And about 3 or 4 years ago, it sort of took off, the death doula, which is the support person for the dying. But I maintained the word death midwife because I find a big piece of my work is the after-death care piece. So the midwife, in my terminology, is the one who takes the dying person from their terminal diagnosis right through the death journey, putting everything in place, creating their legacy, making their wishes known, then supporting the family in the after-death care piece. And then it's a funeral celebrant training too, because then you become the celebrant, creating the funeral service and officiating that at the end. So I remain as a death midwife, and I teach the art of death midwifery, which is how to do the entire piece. And then my students will say, oh, I like the death doula piece. I like that sitting bedside with the dying. And someone else might say, oh, I like the home funeral guide piece. Helping people prepare the body, dress the body, decorate the casket. And someone else might say, I like the celebrant piece. So even though they are certified as a death midwife because they've learned all of the aspects of it, they may choose a particular aspect of it to focus on.
I see.
Because it's a big bite. I've taken all of it on, but it is a big bite. And it's been a lot. And
people can do this remotely?
Yes, I've put the training online now. It's called The Art of Death Midwifery. It's a 3-part training. The first level is Enter the Grave, and that's a deep personal dive into their own fears and beliefs and misconceptions about what death is. And I call it the training for the spiritual end-of-life counselor, because once one has really investigated their own beliefs and theories about death and where their own fears lie, and been able to unpack that so that they're more prepared to go, then they can support another. And a lot of people, they can do an online training about the how-to part, but when they haven't really unraveled their own, they can be triggered at the bedside. And then you can't be very helpful when you're triggered and in your own process.
That makes a lot of sense. As a therapist, that makes a lot of sense. Yes.
Yeah. So Enter the Grave is that personal one. That's all online now. And then the next class is Conscious Dying, which is the nuts and bolts for what you need to put in place. Creating a legacy project, how to be with the dying person, how to support the family. And then level 3 is After the Last Breath, which is everything one needs to know about preparing a dead body, preservation, the funeral industry, cremations and burials will come in after the last breath. And
wow, it's very comprehensive.
It's very comprehensive.
Yeah.
And it's hard to pack all that information into a weekend workshop. They used to be in person, of course, here in Los Angeles. And I put them online. And interestingly enough, they still work fabulously. And I do keep it as 3 long days on Zoom, and nobody complains. Because it's so much information. The groups stay at 20, so it's very intimate. We have lots of time to share and do breakouts. And I can give all the information with that. I share a lot of films and slides. It's very engaging, and as long as someone has the ability to set aside those 3 days, and they've been doing so because the classes always fill. So I think there's a big need for a yearning in people to understand this.
Indeed, and I would say more and more as death is all around us, really in our faces now. We can't, I think people try to avoid it, but we can no longer avoid it.
No, it's true.
Avoid thinking about it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That sounds so incredible, and I can imagine someone going through that would be really transformative for them, even if they decided not to do it professionally, just in terms of preparing themselves for their own end of life and their loved ones' ends of life.
Yeah. Yeah. People come for all reasons. Many are just helping, a spouse who's got a terminal diagnosis, and other people want to learn how to be a death doula or a death midwife and have a career at it. Usually these are people who are looking at changing their career, and other people are coming in now because they're in their own death journey. And they want to be bold and step into it and embrace it and receive it. So I'm very inspired by this group of people who are now stepping forward and saying, it's going to happen to me. I'm tired of running away and grasping at the next, treatment possibility. I want to stop that, relax, bring in my oars and say, take me home. How do I do that? So wow, thank you for bringing that into the group now. It's pretty amazing.
It sounds amazing. How can people find out more about your classes and just what you do and what the alternatives are to traditional funerals and burial? Because I think many of us have a sense that there must be, we're hearing about green burial, maybe overseas, we're not quite sure, but I think that you really offer some basic education, so we have some choices. How can people find out more? What do you have? I'm sure you have a website and other points of contact.
Thank you. Yes, Sacred Crossings. That's okay. Crossings is plural.com. And that if you go there, you can either go directly to the funeral home services, which is based in Los Angeles, or the education, and the education will take you to the Institute site, which outlines the classes under the Art of Death Midwifery. I do other 2-hour webinars on putting your things in order, preparing for the big departure, I call it, completing your advance directives. And there's one called Your Final Footprint, which is all about green burials and cremations and alternative cremations. So, and there's some reading material there. I am starting a blog, so... and
that will be off of the sacredcrossings.com. They can find your blog?
Yes, yeah. I think that's actually
what about social, Olivia? Are you also active on social media?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Sacred Crossings is, we have a Facebook page, Sacred Crossings, and also on Instagram.
Okay. Okay. You're doing such an important service, and I'm sure you know that at some level. I mean, you experience how important this is for people, but it sounds like just in general, educating people that there are choices and it doesn't have to be taken away from you and industrialized. It could actually be something that is, what's the word I'm looking for? Really a deeply moving experience for you that you don't want to miss. You don't want to miss out on this. This is a beautiful part of being a human.
Yeah, I know. And so many people say, oh, I just wish I'd had a little more time. Or, I don't know, there's something so off about her death. I feel so unresolved about it. Or there's people, everybody you talk to has a death that they knew that it wasn't quite right. They didn't know how to fix it. And everybody.
It reminds me of back in history when women were put out to have their babies, right? And then they woke up out of anesthesia and here's your little baby. They didn't go through any of the process. They missed the process.
That's it. Yeah, and they miss their dying. And let's face it, if it's going to be the last experience of an earthly journey, why wouldn't you want to experience it? And
wow.
Death is not painful. Treatment is painful. The results of treatment is painful. But natural death, as when somebody becomes very dehydrated and they very slowly withdraw from the world, doesn't have to be painful.
It reminds me of what Catherine Mannix talks about, how she takes people through what death is really like in the UK. And she's made some YouTubes and videos about, look, if you're afraid of death, let me tell you what it's really like. And yeah. Well, I so appreciate you educating us and opening our eyes to what's possible and enriching our own lives with this. And I so appreciate what you're doing.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it. Any opportunity to let people know that they have an option and that this is a journey. And by leaning into the whole subject of death and dying, it enhances your life. It's not a depressing subject. When you touch into it, it's the opposite. So I can't encourage people more to take it on as a spiritual practice.
Absolutely. Sacredcrossings.com. Thank you so much, Olivia Bareham. And I think we'll be in touch for some more from you as things hopefully settle down in Los Angeles. And I wish you the best. And I'm sure what's a very busy time.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Nicole. God bless you and your listeners. And I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. I love to hear from my listeners. Send me an email at NicoleChristina.com. It's no secret that everyone's feeling pretty restless and unsettled right now. Our lives are upside down and the future is feeling pretty uncertain. But if you're anything like me, organizing my stuff can help me feel a little calmer. It's something I can do to help me feel a little more in control and in charge of my own life. If you think decluttering could help you feel better and you could use a little assistance with that, check out the online course I've developed with professional organizer and designer Carrie Luderin. It's called Too Much Stuff. And Too Much Stuff is different from other courses or articles or guidance you may have used up. We give you clear steps to deal with the clutter and the tools to help you face the overwhelming feelings and the emotions that come up when we're going through our clutter. And a lot of those emotions are just feeling anxious or guilty or just basically flooded with a lot of different confusing feelings. The course is really practical. It's realistic. The lessons are short and punchy, and they're really manageable. We're not trying to set you up for some long exploratory, super in-depth, burdensome experience. We want something really helpful for you right now. We all need help with our anxiety. So being surrounded by more calm and less chaos can really help. So now's a good time to clear out the clutter so we can focus on what's really important in our lives. So find out more at zestfulaging.com. You'll see more about this under the web courses tab. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email at zestfulaging@gmail.com. Thanks so much. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest.